Welcome again to Poetry and Padrón Saturday. Got our Padrón. And this time around, our poetry comes from the most recent collection by Solmaz Sharif, Customs. What I love about Solmaz Sharif's work is that it's often repeated, this idea that the personal is political, but in her work, she makes explicit the connections between the personal experience of the world and the interplay with the systems dictating what we perceive as choices. I think that's especially true in customs, which makes us confront a lot of salient questions around the idea of borders, who controls them, who benefits from their maintenance, how they distort our relationship to ourselves, our communities, to the state. And it asks us to imagine a world beyond them. Now, the poem I'm going to read is called The Master's House, but you should make sure and go check out the whole collection, plus her previous book called Look. To wave from the porch, to let go of the grudge, to disrobe, to recall Ethel Rosenberg's green polka dotted dress, to call your father and say, I've forgotten how nice everyone in these red states can be, to hear him say, yes, long as you don't move in next door, to recall every drawn curtain in the apartments you have lived, to find yourself at 33 at a vast expanse with nary a papyrus of guidance, with nary a voice, a muse, a model, to finally admit out loud, then, I want to go home, to have a dinner party of intellectuals with a bell, long armed, lightly tongued at each setting, to sport your dun gown, to revel in face serums, to be a well calibrated burn victim to fight the signs of aging, to assure financial health, to be lavender sachets and cedar lining in all the ways the rich might hide their rot, to eye the master's bone china, to pour diuretic in his coffee and think this erosive to the state, to disrobe when the agent asks you to find a spot on any wall to stare into, to develop the ability to leave an entire nation thusly just by staring at a spot on the wall as the lead vested agent names article by article what to remove, to do this in order to do the other thing, the wild thing, to say, this is my filmdom, the master's house, and I gaze upon it, and it is good, to discuss desalination plants and terroir, to date briefly a banker, a lapsed Marxist, and hear him on the phone speaking in billions of dollars, its residue over the clear bulbs of his eyes as he turns to look upon your nudity. To fantasize publishing a poem in the New Yorker, eviscerating his little need, to set a bell at each intellectual's table setting, ringing idea after idea, and be the simple-footed help, rushing to say, yes, to disrobe when the agent asks you to find a spot on any wall to stare into, to develop the ability to leave an entire nation thusly, just by staring at a spot on the wall, to say, this is my filmdom, the master's house, to recall the settler who from behind his mobile phone said, I'm filming you for God, to recall this sad God, God of the mobile phone camera, God of the small black globe and pixelated eye above the blackjack table at Haraz and the metal tooth pitted of Kualanda, checkpoint the same. To recall the Texan that held a shotgun to your father's chest, sending him falling backward, pleading, and the words came in to him in Farsi. To be jealous of this, his most desperate language. To lament the fact of your lamentations of English, English being your first defeat. To finally admit out loud, then, I want to go home. To stand outside your grandmother's house. To know, for example, that in Farsi, the present perfect is called the relational past and is used at times to describe a historic event whose effect is still relevant today, transcending the past. To say, for example, Shah dictator Boas translates to the Shah was a dictator, but more literally to the Shah was a dictator. To have a tense of is was, the residue of it over the clear bulb of your eyes. To walk cemetery after cemetery in these states and nary a gravestone reading Solmaz. To know no nation will be home until one does. To do this in order to do the other thing, the wild thing, though you've forgotten what it was.